And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Joe Rexrode out today and tomorrow. He will be back on Monday on the program. We are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Get thicker grass, better color, fewer bare spots with turf application. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Ian Safar, happy Thursday morning to you. It's preseason football game day.
Game day, baby. Today.
How we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. We made it, huh? After all the summer, now we got a little preseason action. I don't know if you can call it made it yet.
We semi-made it.
Yeah. Although we were just talking pre-show here. We got the NFL Network back on Comcast, apparently.
It's a big development.
Hadn't heard any official release on that. Never got an email, but it was on here on the TV, so I guess we're good. But the bottom scroller here says Titans 49ers NFL Network, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, they got to get that fixed.
So we're off to a rocky start early season because apparently everywhere else we see it's 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central. But NFL Network wants to tell us it's 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central. So
let me tell you something. It better be 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central, or I'm going to be very upset. And I mean very upset.
I mean, 9
that's
o'clock.
The schedule I've been looking at all week.
9 o'clock local start for a preseason game would be a little rough, not going to lie.
Yes.
So hopefully it should be 8 o'clock. Everywhere else says 8. I think they just screwed up the bottom ticker here. But you would think they'd be a little bit more on their game.
You would think so, considering that, around the nation, the game will be on their channel.
And although the NFL Network could be slipping a little bit considering the whole, mix with ESPN. So I'm not really sure who's in charge of that.
Well, whoever
I guess it's
is
ESPN.
doing it needs to figure out the ticker. It's step one, figure out the ticker, and then we can get all to the rest of it.
Yeah. And also we something else that's not sports related out. So a couple months ago, we had our little landscape day out front.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. It was good. And we did a good job. I think it looks good. And throughout the past month or so, I've been trying to add in a couple of wildflowers here and there, add some pop of color. I don't know what's going on, but they keep getting ripped out.
Like if somebody's physically removing
I don't know if it's someone physically removing them, ripping them out, or if it's like a deer nearby.
I'm going to hope that that's what it is. But that we don't have some psychopath over here ripping stuff out of the ground.
We're down to one. I've planted several, and we're down to one zinnia wildflower left. So, I don't know.
That's got to be a deer, right?
I might have to do some digging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some digging. I see what you did there. You need a camera?
I was going to say, maybe we need to check the tape. Might ask a couple people around the building what we know about this.
Okay. So you're going to start interrogating people today.
I might.
I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Just a little something around here. Behind the scenes.
We got to get to the bottom of that. If it's an animal, that's acceptable. If it's some you psychopath running around here ripping stuff out of the ground, we're going to have a problem.
So,
big problem.
They were taking a little bit of time to, transition to the new stuff. So, but a couple of them were looking pretty good. So, just curious. Something to find out.
Bottom of this.
Yeah.
Got to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, but doing good. Kept an eye on Nashville SC last night, too. They lost. So, Leagues Cup is done. They went pretty much back up heavy last night.
Yep.
Got out to a quick start. They scored in like 30 seconds right off the bat. I was like, okay. And then
that's about all she wrote.
That was it. And then pretty much slowed down. Monterey, I guess, turned it on in the second half. Ended up taking the 2-1 win. And so Nashville SC out of the Leagues Cup. But, other than that, last night, pretty chill. It was hot. But
very hot.
Yeah.
They got some golf underway in Memphis later this morning. A little Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler pairing. Looking forward to that. So that'll be on my TV a little bit later today as that all goes on. We got a very busy show today on the program. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up later this hour at 6:45. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. He is fresh off his trip to California for the joint practice between the Titans and the 49ers a couple days ago. So we'll get his thoughts on that. And things he's looking for as the Titans take on the Niners in the preseason opener tonight. And then at 8 o'clock, Charles Robinson from NFLBlueBook.com will be with us as well. So we got a lot of football coming your way on the program here today. Kuharsky in the 7 o'clock hour, Charles Robinson in the 8 o'clock hour with us on the show today. So looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, at 615-737-1025. So as Ian mentioned, we have made it to preseason game day number 1 for the Tennessee Titans. And the question we lead off today with is very simple. What are we looking for tonight? What are we looking for tonight as the Titans get underway and take on San Francisco in preseason game number 1? We do know that starters are going to play. We'll see exactly what that means for guys like, Jeffrey Simmons, because I still have a little bit of skepticism there. But the starters are going to play. Cam Ward going to play. Carnell Tate's going to play. For how long, we'll see. But Robert Saleh said the other day after the scrimmage, the joint practices, that guys could play and it will be for more than one series. So you're going to see Cam Ward in action tonight. You're going to see whatever the starting offensive line looks like for the Titans at the moment. You're going to see it in action tonight. And we'll see how long those guys stay in there. I would assume at some point you're going to get probably a lot of run from Will Levis in the game tonight. I think there's a lot of kind of interesting storylines for the Titans standpoint heading into all this. But what are we most looking forward to seeing tonight is where we begin today. And Ian, I look at it from a couple of different standpoints. Yeah, obviously, I mean, anytime Ward and Tate step on the field together, there's a natural interest level there that people are going to have.
See how that chemistry's going.
I think the offensive line is what I'm going to be watching really closely tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's not like, I think we know from San Francisco's situation that they've got with their injuries. You're not going to be going up against all-pro caliber players tonight. I mean, I guess they could play Fred Warner out there for a little bit. I have my doubts they'll do that. But you're not going to be seeing, Nick Bosa lining up across from you tonight if you're the Titans offensive line. So quite frankly, like the Titans offensive line, if it lines up the way that I think it's going to tonight, which is your starters taking on a lot of their backups, you really should hold your own, and not just hold your own, you really should play well, right? Like you're talking about starting level NFL players, hopefully, taking on backup level players for San Francisco. Like you had better be able to hold your own and move the ball and move the line of scrimmage if that's taking place.
I saw Titans are -6.
Yeah. So, I mean,
they're favored.
As George on the YouTube chat points out, this is where the Titans have done their best work over the last few years is in the preseason.
We're favored, so baby.
You're feeling good about the chances of winning the game heading into it. Like this needs to be a game where you look at the offensive line, and I don't know that we're ever going to look at this offensive line and be like, wow, they look awesome out there. But the last thing I want to be talking about tomorrow morning at this time when we're doing this show is, oh my goodness, the Titans starting unit was out there for 2 series and the offensive line had to stay out there for like 4 more series because they just kept getting whipped out there, and Saleh just kept them out there to see if there was anybody out there that could come up with some sort of solution. Like I need to see J.C. Latham specifically tonight play well. Like if he doesn't, that's going to be a big problem for me. I need to see, what Dan Moore looks like, but obviously the interior guys.
Yeah,
who's
talking
center and right guard.
I wonder who's going to start at the right tackle or right guard.
How do they play? Who starts? What does that look like? Like this, you're not going to find too many situations like this in the regular season where you're going up against a team that just is missing so many of their guys that are just not going to play in this preseason game. So, frankly, if the offensive line goes out there tonight and struggles in this game, that to me signals a pretty large problem.
Yeah, especially if you're going up against a lot of backups, as you mentioned. I mean, it's going to be Purdy's not playing, McCaffrey's not playing, Kittle's not playing, Mike Evans probably won't play. I haven't actually officially seen anything from the 49ers.
I haven't either, but I would have to assume that for how many people didn't practice the other day, they're not just all of a sudden going to play tonight.
I guess McCaffrey ended up not practicing. He was in street clothes during the joint practice, so he won't play. Mike Evans, from what I read, only did individuals, so he probably won't play. Kittle wasn't dressed, so he won't play. Trent Williams, he's old, right? And he's not going to play. So on offense, you kind of, if switching over to what we're kind of looking for in the defense, carrying over from the joint practice, getting burnt deep, apparently, some of these big plays, on defense, you want to not give up a bunch of big plays. That would be a great start, especially since Purdy's probably not going to play. I don't even know who the 49ers backup is. I have to look at that. So
is it still Mac Jones?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure we could figure it out real quick, but,
Mac Jones.
That's okay. So Mac Jones is going to play.
You can see a lot of Mac Jones.
Yeah, he's not terrible. but you still don't want to see the Titans get burnt deep, especially defensively. So offensive line, defensive big plays. I think those are the big overarching topics, themes that I'll be looking for on both sides of the ball.
I got a text that says, I'm looking to see if the team has a pulse or not tonight. That would be a good start.
No fights
front.
would be good. How about that?
That would also be good.
Yeah, we don't need to be throwing any punches.
Ryan in Florida says Levis plays great, so we can trade him. I think we'll get into that throughout the show today of the opportunity in front of Will Levis tonight. He's going to have to play really well and to generate some sort of interest in him that just has not been here yet to this point. But we'll get into that a little bit later in the show with Kuharsky as well. Lots of things that you could look forward to in tonight's preseason opener. We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, you can pick one offensive player and one defensive player to have a good showing tonight in the preseason debut. Who would it be? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Titans in action tonight for their preseason opener, taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And throwing it out there, you can pick one offensive player, one defensive player to have a good showing tonight. Who would you pick? There's actually somebody on the text line already who has just absolutely nailed my answer.
Oh, okay. Nicely done.
My answer, Trevor has thrown this on the text line. On offense, J.C. Latham. On defense, Femi Oladejo. Those are my two guys.
Those are good.
I mean, look, you could always go Cam Ward with this. You could go Carnell Tate. I mean, I'm hoping if things go well, those guys are going to play for like 5 minutes, right? Like you're not going to see them in there that much. And I guess the same thing with Latham. My guess is you're probably going to see Oladejo play a lot, right? I think you're going to need to see him in there quite a bit tonight. And I'd like to see him flash on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not saying he's got to go get 3 sacks or anything, but I'd like to see him flash on the defensive side of the ball and provide some sort of hope in a game setting that he can actually be a significant contributor to the defense this year. I mean, Latham, I think that speaks for itself based on the conversations that we've had about the offensive line heading into this year. Like, right. You need to start to see really good signs for him. But like Trevor, you nailed it. Latham and Femi, my answers immediately.
Nailed it. Those are very good answers. It's hard to disagree with either of those. Femi in particular, right? This is the time you don't really expect him to be a starter to begin the season. And so this is the time where he's going to get some significant playing time, you would think. And you'd like to see him, as you said, flash, see what he can do against, you would also assume, backup tackles. So it'll be fun to watch, see how he fits in the new defense as setting the edge versus coming off the pass rush. Yep. What kind of bend? How's he looking? Are they dropping him into coverage at all? Which Saleh kind of made it sound like the defensive ends won't do that a whole lot in his defense.
Yep.
So we'll see how he kind of adjusts to the new scheme. I think for my defensive player, I might go inside linebacker. I'm thinking James Williams.
Yep.
I've heard him flash a little bit during camp here. He is kind of looking, him and Anthony Hill Jr., I'd say, are a couple that I would pencil in as far as on defense, how the inside linebackers look. They play a pretty big role in the solid defense. James Williams and Anthony Hill, you wouldn't expect to be starters right off the bat between Cody Barton and who is the other guy that they really like? Is it Diabate?
Yes.
So those two guys seem like they're kind of penciled in as the starters. Where does James Williams and Anthony Hill fit? I'd like to see Anthony Hill maybe rush the passer a little bit, see how he does on that. So on defense, I think I'm going interior inside linebacker.
Yeah, I like that. George on the YouTube chat says Cam Ward should be expected to score at least 1 touchdown against the 49ers backups. And Keldrick Falk, a first-round pick. Need to see some good things from him and not hide out there like Femi. I mean, I continue to say like Keldrick Falk is like one of the most under-discussed first-round picks I've ever seen heading into all this, just because Carnell Tate's there, so I get it. But
and he did sneak in 30th, so you almost don't even think of him as a first-round pick because they moved back in and it was so late in the draft.
Right.
And you almost forget they had 2 first-rounders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would assume that he may get some significant run tonight too.
Yeah, he's a good one too. He's not going
to play for forever in this game, but he'll probably get in there relatively quickly and probably a pretty decent look at it tonight in an actual game setting. And he's a guy that obviously you can put on the edge, but I think you can move him around a little bit on the line of scrimmage. So we'll see what that looks like. Rick says, according to Robby and Ian, the 49ers backups are the equivalent to Austin Peay. If we don't win 49-7, we suck. Well, let me just state for the record, I do not care and really could not care less about the score of tonight's game between the Titans and the 49ers. But is it not reasonable to expect the Titans starters to be able to handle the 49ers backups? I mean, is that not a reasonable request?
Yeah, we don't need a blowout
heading into tonight's game. Like, if the Titans starters cannot handle the 49ers backups, to me, that's not a very positive development. You're not going to see a whole lot of backup level players when the season starts. So, look, again, I don't care about the final score of tonight's game. I mean, really, I don't particularly care if the Titans win or lose tonight. It's a preseason football game. But I do care about the starters going in and playing tonight and showing well for themselves against guys on the other side that are not going to be playing very much for the San Francisco when everybody's healthy. Like, that should matter in this discussion. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be. So. I'm not saying they're Austin P. No disrespect to Austin P. But this really, I think it's a very reasonable request to have the Titans starters hold their own against San Francisco's backups. Sorry, sue me.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you're like backups here, first team. There should be a little bit of a talent gap. If Jeffrey Simmons doesn't come in the first series, he's supposed to play in the preseason apparently for like the first time in who knows how long.
Yep.
And if he plays, he better look good. If Jermaine Johnson's out there against the backup, you'd like to see him get some pressure on the quarterback. If the starting secondary is out there, try not to get burned by the backup wide receiver. I think that seems fair. And if you are getting burned by the backups, that's not a good sign for the season.
No, it's not. And again, I look at specific places on this roster right now that are really interesting to me. I mean, you mentioned another guy that now that you throw it out there is up towards the top of the list when the starters are out there, what I'll be watching. Like, I'm very interested to see what Jermaine Johnson looks like coming off the injury in a game setting. And, I don't think he's going to be out there very long, but can you wreak some havoc while you're out there? Like, there are so many guys that are going to play important roles for the Titans this year that I just think are really up in the air in terms of what they're going to be. Like, Jermaine Johnson has played good football in the NFL before. We've seen it. He's coming off now the second year removed from a major injury. What does that look like for him? Is there a significant jump from last year to this year? Clearly, Robert Saleh is counting that there is, right?
Yeah, the reports from him from camp have been very good.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like in a game. Well, yesterday we had the Amani Hooker discussion, right? It wasn't a great year from Amani Hooker last year. And apparently, the practice, we had Nick Suss on the show yesterday, apparently didn't go very well from the safety position. So, that'll be something tonight. There's going to be a very limited – that's the one problem with the preseason games to me, which is – and I've heard a bunch of people talking about this. Like, Aaron Rodgers was talking about this the other day. A lot of people around the NFL has talked about this. Like, yes, the NFL preseason games are valuable from the standpoint of the pads are on. It's a game setting. You have to actually wrap people up and take them to the ground. And, the physical contact
get
part
back into the groove.
There's pretty much zero scheme that gets run. Zero.
There's no game planning.
Very vanilla. There's no game planning. If you're a quarterback out there today, you're not going to see a lot of, overly challenging looks defensively. Like, it's very bland
very
in terms
base
of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I think Aaron Rodgers called it not real football was kind of the term that he used. So, like, from that standpoint, there's a limited amount of value that like Cam Ward tonight. It's valuable from the standpoint of, like, there's still timing that you got to go through with your routes. There's still, your receivers coming out of if they're running a 12-yard route out there, getting your timing right on that, all those things. Like, that's valuable. But it's not like the 49ers are going to be throwing the kitchen sink at Cam Ward tonight. So I think you got to keep all that in mind when you're talking about these preseason games. But, when you start to get down the list of the depth chart, you do see guys every year that for one reason or another maybe don't stand out all that much at practice, and then the games come around and they make a name for themselves, ultimately end up making a team because of the way they play in preseason games. So I'm interested to see who that is for the Titans starting tonight.
Yeah, there's a couple of other options out there to watch for me. Nick Singleton in the run game.
Yep.
He seems to be flashing. I'd like to see him I've heard read one or two where he might have really busted out a long run, but they whistled it dead because he, quote, was tackled. And, you'd like to see, is he actually tackled in some of these or does he break some long ones? Yeah. So on offense, Nick Singleton's another one I'd like to keep an eye on. Receiver depth wise, catch the Restrepo, he'll be out there.
He's gonna have a monster game.
KJ Osborne, right? He's gonna be out there. These are some depth guys I'd like to see just kind of how they look. And I do wonder offensively, if you're Dable, how much are you scripting the first drive here for Cam Ward in the offense?
It's a good question.
In preseason, how much do you do that? If you're gonna take the time to script it out, like you need to see a good first drive. If you're going to go out there, you're going to script out some plays, you got some ideas of what you want to do, you need to be crisp in these. So that's the one drive for the Titans with Cam Ward.
Yep.
It's only going to be probably a drive or two, 10 plays, something like that. You'd think 10, 12, but I'd like to see them be good.
One thing that I'm interested to see in tonight's game that maybe on the surface doesn't jump out to anybody. Like I wonder if there's a chance tonight where it's like 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 and the Titans are in field goal range and you've got, conventional wisdom would tell you to go for it because of the analytics. But Saleh just wants to take a look at Sly and see what that looks like, where maybe in a normal situation he'd go for it on 4th and 2. But he's like, you know what? We need to see if Sly can make this 44-yarder here. Let's kick it. I think that I would do that if I'm Saleh with the struggles that have gone on in the kicking game. And I know he had a good day at the joint practice the other day, but in a normal situation where in a game I might be more inclined to go for it, I may kick tonight just to see if Sly can make it.
I think I would.
What you're looking at.
I think I would too, especially when Cam Ward's out of the game. Once you got in the kind of the backups in, when Levis is in, Trubisky's in, you're at the 35. I think I'm with you. I think you kick it. You got to test out Joey Sly, see how he's doing. We do not want to get on the kicker carousel. We've seen the kicker carousel. It is not pretty.
No.
So Titans need to give Joey Sly as many chances as he can to get back on the right foot here.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Ian mentioned someone there that is really fascinating to me, and I think there's an opportunity here that he could run with. We'll get into that coming up next. The best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. Paul Kuharsky with us in the 7 o'clock hour. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Keep up with training camp at 1025 The Game for the latest updates, player interviews, and more as you get prepped for the upcoming football season. Coverage of training camp presented by Tennessee Brew Works, Parman Energy, and the Music City Kickoff Game. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us in the 7 o'clock hour. Charles Robinson from NFL Blue Book with us at 8 o'clock on the program today. So lots of good football talk coming your way throughout the show. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. You mentioned somebody in the last segment, Ian, that not only tonight, but I think moving forward here, going to be really interesting to see the role that he will play this year and what that could mean for him moving forward. Apparently, Nick Singleton is playing well, turning some heads in training camp right now. We talked about him when he got drafted. I mean, you're talking about a fifth round draft pick. There's a lot of talent, a lot of ability there. The last season that he had at Penn State did not go, I guess, the way that he was looking for there. But if you go look at his entire college career, there's an explosiveness there that was pretty evident when you watched him play at his best.
Apparently, he was a very high recruit.
Yeah. Very high recruit, 5-star. Yeah, big time.
Pennsylvania, like player of the year or something like that.
Yeah, big time recruit for Penn State. And, a fifth round pick here in Tennessee. And we see this, we've talked about this with Monangai in Chicago, 7th round pick last year. Like you could find running backs all over the league that were taken in the 4th, 5th, 6th round that turn out to be pretty good players for those teams. And, I don't know exactly what Singleton's, stats are going to look like this year. He does have Tony Pollard in front of him because he got Tajay Spears, playing well in camp so far. So I don't know how much opportunity is going to be there in the regular season for him to actually get carries. But if he does force his way into some of those conversations and get some carries out there and continues to make some plays like he's making so far in camp, I do wonder what that means, because I think running back beyond this season is totally up in the air for the Titans. Like, I would almost be willing to bet that Tony Pollard is not here after this year. Spears, I have no idea. Like, I think it's totally dependent on the year that he has this year as to whether or not he comes back. And even, it's very difficult for me to see at this point, Tajay Spears becoming like, a primary back for the Tennessee Titans. So I just don't think that part of it is going to happen. So if Singleton hits and you can get to the end of this season and you're feeling good about him maybe being at least a part of your running back rotation in the future, that would be a great development. Like, I guess I would be surprised, Ian, with Pollard and Spears in front of him right now, if we got to the end of this season and we're just absolutely sure that Nick Singleton was going to be running back 1 for the Titans for the next 5 years. But if he could show you enough this year where you're like, all right, we have Singleton, maybe you go out this next offseason and sign, some veteran running back to have, a 1-2 kind of punch there and see what that looks like. But apparently Singleton playing pretty well in camp so far. I'm interested to get PK's thoughts on this in the 7 o'clock hour.
Interesting running back market this year in general, right? We've seen a couple of guys get paid. We saw some big contracts in free agency. Kenneth Walker, ETN or HN, however he's saying it, going to the Saints. So you got the Kamara, ATN kind of thing there. And, Bijan and Gibbs got their big deals. Jonathan Taylor got himself a new big deal. DVD in the afternoons was having a pretty good conversation about the running game in general under Dable and the Titans and how that might look, how much they play shotgun. What does that mean for the running game? How does the running game work in a heavy shotgun situation? What does that mean for play action? How much, it's an interesting thought here about how much they're actually going to run the ball under Dable. And how much they're always in shotgun. I think they said Dable was in shotgun 80-something% of the time, low 80s with the Giants. So what does that mean here? And how does the run game look? How does it work? What are they trying to do with the run game? Daboll to me seems like a passer, right? He wants to throw the ball. And how much is he going to use Ward in the running game?
Yep.
And I think the running game in particular is something to keep an eye on in this. Even the running game, because once you put the pads on, practice is hard to really get a gauge of the run game.
I would agree.
So once the games kind of start, I think you can get a better gauge of who's breaking tackles, how the holes are looking, just the style of the running game, what they're trying to accomplish. I think that's a low-key, interesting something to keep an eye on tonight as well.
I also think like what we see from Singleton in the regular season is probably heavily dependent on like what does Tony Pollard have left in the tank, right? Like if it becomes clear
he's lost
halfway through the year that Pollard has lost a step, okay, well then that probably changes your approach a little bit at running back. Like if Pollard, I thought, last year was an interesting year from Pollard from the standpoint of like at the end of it, he ended up having a career year, right? Like he ended up with the most yards he's ever had. He was over 1,000 again, but he was 1,082 yards. He ended up 4.5 a carry, which was both of those things slightly better than the year before, right? Like in 2024, he had 1,079 yards and was at 4.2 a carry. So his numbers actually ended up being better last year at the end of it than they were the year before. However, like it was almost a tale of 2 years from Pollard last year. Like I thought in the first half of the year last year,
the run game in particular,
the running game was just awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and how much of that was Pollard? How much of that was Brian Callahan and the way that they were calling things before? Clearly something shifted and McCoy leaned into running the ball a little bit more and it worked out, right? Like Pollard had a big game against the Browns. Frankly, Pollard had a big game against San Francisco.
Yeah.
And Robert Sala's defense. So like they ran the ball better in the second half of the year last year. But we talked with Kuharsky about this a lot last year. Like, I also think it was clear that like Pollard, I don't know that Pollard's got a ton of explosiveness left in his career, right? Like he didn't break off a ton of 40-plus yard runs.
No big plays really.
Right. So what does that look like this year as he's approaching 30? Like, does it become clear halfway through the year that he's just, he's fine, but he's not a primary number one running back in the league anymore? Or like, is it clear by halfway through the year that he is still that guy? Like he still can run the ball at a pretty good level and he is going to be another 1,000-yard year for Tony Pollard this year. Well, if that's the case, then you're probably not going to see Singleton a whole lot while the season's going on. So like, I'm intrigued to see Singleton tonight. I'm intrigued long-term about what he could mean for the running back room. I think what we see from him this year in the regular season is almost totally dependent on Tony Pollard and the year that he has.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair. I do wonder where they see Tyjae Spears' role as far as running between the tackles. Is he going to be strictly a, third down back, so to speak? Is Singleton a strictly third down back? Do they have a third down back role type thing that they, have as far as pass protection, pass catching, going out into some routes? Because Spears seems like he would be a good third down back, assuming he can pick up pass pro.
Well, apparently in camp they've been throwing the ball to the running back a lot. So
yeah, I don't know if I don't necessarily remember that being a thing with the Giants or the Bills under Daboll. I guess they would throw it to Singletary sometimes.
And Saquon got it some, but
that's true. Saquon. Yeah. Well, I guess when you have somebody like Saquon, you just give them the ball as much as you can. So yeah, the running back rotation will be interesting. And is Spears a good between the tackles runner in this system? And if he is, does he start to steal a couple of snaps away from Singleton? Does that kind of limit his production?
That's going to be interesting. Like, Spears has not been a good in between the tackles runner in any system so far.
Nope.
So does that change with this one? I kind of have my doubts on that, but we'll see when it comes to the regular season. But like, can you find a way to get him in space where he can use? He clearly has some ability.
Singleton feels like the biggest big play guy, right? As far as running back goes,
just in terms of pure explosiveness.
Yeah, pure big play guy. Singleton seems like the big home run hitter in this offense as far as running back. So, what does that mean for his role? That'll be fun to see how it kind of plays out.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, like I think in the back of your mind, if you're Borgonzi, I mean, your running back room could look
Completely
totally different.
to draft him right then.
I agree. And again, like I think with a lot of positions, you'd look at it and you say, yeah, 5th round pick. Running back, I just don't think is that way. Like I think you can find
they can make an impact.
Backs
as
5th round picks in the National Football League. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up next. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Paul Kuharsky with us in the 7 o'clock hour. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. Preseason getting underway tonight, and that means fantasy football right around the corner, and you need a place to draft. I've got it for you. Twin Peaks. Make sure you check it out. 29-degree draft beers, bites for the whole team, a $50 bonus card for the commish, and an additional $5 bonus card for every drafter as well. We have had several fantasy drafts at Twin Peaks and absolutely love it. So call to book your draft party today at the Twin Peaks Madison location. Visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft for more information. Again, that's twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
Believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode out today. He will be back Monday morning. So, Ian Safar, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Okay, how about this? I saw this from Roger Sherman, who covers some sports here. I'm part of his, I guess he sends out his newsletter every week.
Okay.
How about this? Baby on board. We have a new record in Cleveland. Steven, I don't know how to say his last name, ran a mile 4 minutes and 17 seconds while pushing a baby in a stroller. A new record.
How fast is that stroller going?
A new Guinness Book of World Records. We have our fastest mile by a dad pushing his kid in a stroller. 4 minutes and 17 seconds, beating the old record of 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Crushed it by 9.
Is there video footage of this?
I see a still picture.
Can't be safe for the child. You know how fast you got to be going to run a 4 minute and 17 second mile?
14 miles per hour for the whole mile with a stroller.
You never lose control of the stroller. Like I would hope, for the sake of this discussion, that the dude's just going straight the whole time, right? Like if you're going straight.
Yeah,
at least you're not having to worry about
it is tough
turning too quickly at that point.
It is tough to turn sometimes the strollers, especially while you're running, I'd say.
But where do you find enough of a straightaway to go just completely straight for a mile? There's not very many places where that exists.
That's apparently it was over the Cleveland's Hope Memorial Bridge.
Okay.
So
I think I walked that.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what.
That's pretty straight.
Pretty straight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not quite, super smooth track or anything.
No.
So it might be a little bumpy. Apparently the kid's legs were flailing quite a little bit here. He wasn't really necessarily helping out in his dad's form.
How old was the kid?
But I don't know. That's a good question.
Some newborn out there?
He looks pretty little. He's probably about, I guess it could be a she. I can't tell. Looks like maybe about a year.
Okay.
8 months, 9 months, something like that. Probably a little bit less than a year based on this picture.
That's an absolute annihilation of the record, though.
Oh, yeah.
Cleared it by 9 seconds.
And
that's pretty good.
There's some other good ones in here, too, as far as records. Guinness Book of World Records, miles. Fastest mile while dribbling a basketball, 4 minutes, 23 seconds. Fastest mile while dribbling a soccer ball, 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah. Fastest mile controlling a tennis ball, 4 minutes and 53 seconds. Fastest mile pushing a wheelchair. Fastest mile in high heels, 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Fastest mile dribbling 2 basketballs, 8 minutes and 28 seconds.
Yeah, I can see that'd be difficult.
Fastest blindfolded mile, 5 minutes and 23 seconds. Fastest mile wearing a 100-pound pack, 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Great. So we've had some good numbers there.
Apparently this stroller display was on television. So apparently people in Cleveland just lined up.
I'm sure we can find it on YouTube somewhere.
Right. Good to know.
Yep. And my worst in sports, how about we are now using Little League to get judges to hop in there and give us a ruling to make teams eligible, huh?
Temporary restraining orders for 12-year-old baseball teams.
So now we're doing Little League judges and suing them people to court and seeing who's eligible to play and who's not. It's good times.
How does that even work, man? It's just like, we we need a temporary restraining order to get
but I guess
restraining order.
Yeah, I guess one of the teams was officially disqualified. Oklahoma's team, represented by the Tulsa National Little League, was officially, I guess, disqualified from the Little League World Series. They played with someone ineligible, even though I guess a judge ruled them eligible and then a judge ruled them ineligible. So
that's great. Let's take all that from college sports
doing
and
a great
start
job
doing
with the youth of America.
that's great. That's
Way to
good
go.
stuff. Good stuff on that front. My best thing in sports, number one, we got NFL preseason football back tonight. That'll be my best thing for about a week, and then I think I'll be over the preseason football part of it. But I am excited to watch some actual football take place tonight. So looking forward to that. My worst thing, I kind of feel bad for J.J. McCarthy. Kind of. I mean, you're talking about a number 10 overall pick. He's played 10 games, and he has basically been told immediately, like, hey, man, you kind of suck. Like we're just done.
And
We're just totally done with you.
And if Kevin O'Connell's going to say that in the second year, like, you don't love that.
It's not great.
Because he's supposed to be like, the QB guy.
Like people have differing opinions on Kyler Murray. Like, Kyler Murray has played reasonably well in some football games. But, I would agree with people that say that Kyler Murray is not like an upper echelon quarterback or anything. I am interested to see the way that he plays this year with, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and that offense and what that could mean, because I think they could sneakily be good. But, I mean, it is kind of it's amazing. You think about, like, so Marcus Mariota's number 2 overall pick, and the Titans basically exhausted every option to get him to work out. I mean, J.J. McCarthy was taken 10th in the draft. Like, it's not like this is some 4th rounder. He was the 10th overall pick in the draft, and he ended up playing 10 games for the team that drafted him, and they were like, yeah, this guy just doesn't have it. Like, it's not Josh Rosen level of drama where it's just like they saw him they're around him for 1 year and like, yeah, we got to move on from that. But like, it is pretty wild when you think about him being the 10th overall pick in the draft and just immediately being discarded.
Don't love that. No, you wonder what that means for his future. He says he wants to stay in Minnesota.
Yeah.
What does it look like in the offseason? Who wants to take a flyer on that?
Who's like, what does that say to the rest of the NFL that the team that invested that high of a resource
is ready to move on,
just immediately is ready to move
Man,
on?
they have kind of,
how bad is
imagine they had Sam Darnold.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, they fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I guess, for bungling that whole situation. You lose Darnold. Now you have to bring in Kyler. You draft McCarthy. That's going to poop.
I mean,
so who knows?
What if Kyler sucks this year? Like,
what
does that do for O'Connell? Right? Like, it wasn't that long ago. Everybody thought of him as a quarterback guru.
Yeah. Does he take a big hit? That's a good question. His reputation.
I'm very interested to see what they do this year. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us coming up next. We will get into all things Tennessee Titans with him as they prepare for their preseason opener tonight. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Rexrode out today and tomorrow. He will be back next Monday. And we got a lot coming your way over the next hour. Charles Robinson with us at 8 o'clock on the show today. But now we welcome into the program our good friend Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com, whose dedication to this show is unmatched. Fresh off a trip to California. He's with us this morning on the show. PK, good morning. How are you?
He's pulled a Rexrode.
He's pulled a Rexrode. Is he muted?
He is muted.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I don't know. It says he's unmuted, but I got no audio. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. See if we can get the technical issues figured out with PK here and how that goes. But at least he is, I see unmuted on my screen too. So we'll see what that looks like. PK will be with us. We'll get that sorted out here shortly. But PK, fresh off the trip to California with San Francisco and joint practice for the Titans the other day. Again, the preseason game coming up tonight for the Tennessee Titans. We've gone through some scenarios of what we're looking for tonight. A lot of you weighing in with your text line opinions on the player on offense you're looking forward to seeing the most, player on defense you're looking forward to seeing the most. Yeah, we mentioned Femi Oladejo and what that could look like in the game tonight. A lot of people asking about Will Levis and how much he's going to play. I mean, I would assume he's going to play a lot in tonight's game because he's the third-string quarterback. I don't know how much of Mitch Trubisky you need to see. I'm sure we'll see some of Mitch Trubisky tonight, but I don't know how much we need to see on the Trubisky front tonight when it comes to the backup quarterback that has been in the league for a decade at this point. So I would assume Levis is going to get, I don't know, quarter and a half. Does Hendon Hooker play at all? I mean, that's kind of the question that I've got heading into all this. I'm sure he'll play some, but I think Levis is going to get a big run.
Surely he'll get at least a half, right?
Levis? I mean, probably close to it. I don't know. I'm interested to see what that part of it looks like. I mean, Hooker has basically not been getting any team drills, and you've got a preseason game coming up that I know that.
That seems risky, right? Like. Did you not have any team drills and practice and play in the game?
Yeah, it could be weird. But also, it's like, what are you doing there if you're just not going to play ever? Like, you typically in the first preseason game, you see like the fourth quarterback play some.
Yeah, I mean, typically you do, but I guess Ward's going to play a little. I wonder how much the starters actually play. For one, what does that do to the whole playing time? And then Trubisky, what do you need to see from Trubisky as a backup at this point?
I don't need to see a ton. Like, I think they know what they have in him. That's why I think Levis is going to play a lot. Now, look, I also think we've probably heard a little bit too much of the, hey, they can get a big trade from Levis if he goes out there and plays well tonight. Like, can he work himself into like somebody giving the Titans a 6th or 7th round pick? That's what I'm looking for, because we keep talking about that. Like, we've been talking about that for over a year.
Not going to get
nobody's
anything.
Pulled the trigger on that yet, which clearly shows you, going back to his comments he made a couple of weeks ago about being, one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league. There's a huge gap right now between how he views himself and how the rest of the league views him. And I don't know how much like one preseason performance could change that. But, I mean, at least if he goes out there and plays well, if you're an NFL GM out there, you can talk yourself into, all right, he's got a good arm. He's still relatively young at the quarterback position. Like, you could start to figure some of that out. But I don't know that it's going to be anything overly crazy that way when it comes to what the trade value is going to look like. Can they get anybody to take it?
You're not going to get much. You're not going to get barely anything. We've talked about it. It's going to be you give up a 7th and you get a 6th back, right? You move up a couple of spots around in the draft, and that'll be about it, especially given what we've seen in the preseason or training camp so far. What is he going to show in one preseason game that's really going to drastically change his asking price or somebody's urge to really want to trade for him?
One texter asking about John Franklin Myers. Says last week they said he'd be back, didn't come back last week, then said that he'd be back, and he's still not back with a back injury. Should we start to get worried about that? A lot of backs in that sentence. I mean, look,
Skiatika.
He's not missing any regular season time right now.
He doesn't need to play in the preseason.
I'm not overly concerned about John Franklin Myers.
Especially he's been in the Saleh system before. He knows what to do, right?
Well, and I guess the one thing is, like, you start hearing about a back injury, and that worries you a little bit. But we'll see.
Could be a
kinda what
chronic.
that
Yeah,
looks
you
like.
just have to hope it's not like a chronic back thing that's going to plague him all season. But I mean, he knows that's one difference between JFM and Simmons as far as used to playing in the solid defense in a regular season game. What that looks like.
Yeah, that's that part of it is going to be interesting. And then at the bottom of the wide receiver room, like, I think you're 5 right now. So we'll see like who is that 6th guy that's it's going to end up being. I've already said it. Restrepo's going to have a great game tonight, and people are going to
Catch the strap, baby.
and he'll probably be their leading receiver tonight. So I'm sure that'll go well tomorrow. PK, I believe we have you now. How we doing?
Good morning.
Hey!
I'm doing well. Sorry about that. I
That's
don't
okay.
know what was going on there.
It's okay.
Everything was in order, but except for the part where I came on the actual physical air.
Well, how we doing? How was California there and back?
The breeze was nice. That's about all I saw. That Santa Clara Stadium and their facility for a team of their quality is not particularly nice.
How close did you get to the substation?
Oh, we were right up against it. There's a fence and there's a substation on the other side. So I'm not a big believer in temporary access to the substation doing anything. I had a nice 5-hour wait at San Francisco Airport.
Nice.
I did a podcast. I wrote a story. I had a meal. If I had a tent, I would have laid out for a little while. It was not the best planned trip in the history of trips, but got it done.
Got it done. That's all that matters. So let's just start there. Your overall kind of general takeaways from what you saw from the joint practice session between the Titans and the 49ers, which from reading your work at paulkuharsky.com sounds like did not overly go the Titans' way on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they clearly were not the better team. And then a lot of people were like, well, why would you expect them to be the better team against, a team that won 12 games last year? And, well, I didn't, but on any given day, go out, training camp practice, and, be more precise and productive than they were. I did talk to somebody that watched the tape that was more enthusiastic than I was, and then the media was in general. But I heard one team related person say, well, on defense, a lot of those plays would have been sacks. Well, I mean, that's the case all the time. A lot of the plays for the Titans offense would have been sacks as well. So, it probably wasn't quite as bad as it looked, but I thought clearly the Niners were the smoother, better executing team, and the Titans, in talking to Cedric Gray in particular, in talking to Carnell Tate in particular, were excited about the physicality that they were able to bring, and that they were fast and violent. Well, fast and violent is a component to winning, but fast and violent doesn't put points on the scoreboard by itself.
Yep.
And I thought the 49ers were pretty fast and violent as well, plus did more overall. I thought Fred Warner was a general terror who did a lot of tone setting. I was with the Titans offense most of the time, and they did some things. They didn't really find deep shots. They ran the ball well, and they defended the run well. And those are things that are hard to score high in a scrimmage setting because there's not tackling. But Elikai Manor had a hard time downfield, and Cam had a hard time getting him the ball downfield. They're very much in a check down mode right now. I wrote out of the scrimmage, that there were a lot of check downs, and that Saleh took those as good signs about Cam's good decision making, and I think they picked up where they left off with that. Spears in particular getting a lot done there, and they had some mid range connections that were good with Ridley and with Tate. But I think they got a ways to go, and that's fine for them to be there now.
What was your kind of impression of how the offensive line performs with, no Nick Bosa on the other side of things? You're talking about, guys that are not going to be starting level players for San Francisco out there. What did you make of the Titans offensive line? We had Nick Suss on yesterday. He was talking about, the pressure pretty significant pressure on Cam Ward, particularly for about a 10, 12 play stretch. It was just constant on Cam Ward. What did you make of how the offensive line did?
Yeah, that stretch that he's talking about in particular is disappointing against a team that didn't rush the passer well and didn't have three of its top pass rushers from last year on the field. So, I mean, I don't think it's a huge, like, oh my God, the offensive line's not working, but I think you would have liked to have seen better given the circumstances that the Niners aren't great there and that the Titans have put a lot of work there. Dan Williams got thrown out probably in the middle of that. I don't think losing Austin Deckles is a minus there. And I think maybe some things happened there that were unexpected. You know, that the Niners got kind of out of, how should I say it? Out of their rush lanes, which is stuff you have to adjust to, but maybe was a little bit of a surprise. And they haven't necessarily, had a chance to deal with that sort of stuff yet. So that's the beginning of that. So we'll see. It's not going to be a bigger test tonight. It'll be a lesser test tonight because Shanahan is taking this like a lot of coaches take this, a lot of veteran coaches with more veteran teams.
Yep.
Oh, we got a lot of work in that practice. And so we don't need to play our starters in the game, whereas Saleh is more like, all right, we got a lot of work in the practice, and now we're going to get more work in the game.
Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us here on the program. We'll take your questions for PK on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us here on the program. We'll take your questions for PK at 615-737-1025. PK, how are we feeling about Cam Ward, how he's coming along in the new offense under Brian Dable? Seems like he had a really good week last week up until the joint practice, where it wasn't bad by most accounts at the joint practice, but maybe not quite as sharp as he was certainly in the scrimmage last weekend and in the practice on Sunday. But overall, how are we feeling about Cam Ward and the progress that he's made throughout training camp to this point?
Yeah, I think he's gotten better lately. And part of it is what I mentioned earlier. I mean, they put such an emphasis on decision-making, right? And they like the decision-making that they've seen recently, which, quite frankly, is largely his decision to take what he's given, which has been shorter underneath stuff. Now, how that translates, it's harder to tell with no tackling, what Spears and Pollard and maybe Wandale are doing with that shorter stuff. But in the scrimmage, I think it was the touchdown drive that ended with a throw to Helm, a short throw to Helm in the end zone, where he found 3 short plays, or it might have been a run to Pollard, but a run to Spears and maybe 2 short throws to Pollard, if I'm remembering correctly, that turned into good gains and drive extending stuff. I might have those numbers wrong on how many there were and stuff, but that's what he was willing to take. They extended the drive. They're not, glamorous plays or anything. They're not showing off Carnell Tate or Robinson or, any of what, people are thirsty to see.
Yep.
But is effective march down the field drive, take what you can get, and good decisions where he didn't force things that put the ball at risk or put them in jeopardy down and distance wise. And so I think that is all effective. Hopefully things will open up. And then Saleh said about his own defense, with the Titans going against his own defense, we're going to give you that underneath stuff, limit explosives until you prove you're really good at it. And then we'll tighten up and give you more of a chance to be aggressive. And so that's what Cam and the offense did Friday night at Nissan Stadium. I thought, at least in that one small sample size, with good effect. And Saleh, when I asked him about it, really expanded on it as a sample of the good decision making that they're looking for. So and then we saw it again in Santa Clara.
Well, so one thing, kind of switching gears on the defensive side of the ball, we talked with you about this throughout the offseason, and we had Nick Suss on the show yesterday, and something he talked about with the defense I really did not like, and that is Amani Hooker. And I thought Amani Hooker did not have a good year last year, and I think the natural question in the aftermath of that was, all right, how much of that was him, and how much of that was just the absolute dregs that he was dealing with around him, or just nothing was going on defensively for the Titans last year. Well, Suss was talking about how you spent most of the time, watching the Titans defense at the joint practice in Santa Clara. They got beat over the top quite a bit. The safety play wasn't good. Talked about, Hooker getting beat over the top a few times. And it wasn't exactly like, it was Mike Evans out there going over the top of everybody. So
yeah,
my question for you is, like, are we starting to get concerned about Amani Hooker? Is it an overreaction from one day? What have been your impressions of what you've seen from Hooker to this point in camp?
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily been a problem, but I do think that he's a question mark. I think it's a reasonable question. Did Amani Hooker have a bad season last year? When Kevin Byard had his worst season here, we asked, was he, and I'm not putting them on the same plane, obviously, But we asked, was Byard overextended because he was part of a bad secondary, or was he starting to slip? Now, Kevin Byard's had a pretty damn good career since he left Tennessee. He wasn't good in Philadelphia, but he was pretty good in Chicago.
Yep.
Now we'll see what he does in New England. If Amani Hooker is taking a continued step back, and quite frankly, last year I like Amani Hooker a lot, and I think he's a candid, self-aware guy, but he never said last year that he was struggling, which I didn't love. If he takes a step back this year and we see things like happened in Santa Clara, they're in trouble. Because Kevin Winston's unproven. People think he's going to be good, but they don't have Tony Adams. I talked to for the first time the other day. Seems like a great guy, saying all the right things. Talked to him about his tackling, which was an issue in New York, and he got defensive about it, which I think is, a little bit of what you want. Not super accountable, but said everybody's got. Show me somebody that doesn't have some bad tackles on their tape. Angles was a question for him. I don't know that he's a guy you want on the field beyond a niche role like big nickel, which is what they have. And they don't have a fourth safety that they love. I think it's probably Kendall Brooks right now. These are the kind of spots a team like this doesn't have. Fourth safety's asking a lot. And it'd probably be a spot on their draft list next year. So I think Amani Hooker's probably playing no matter how badly he's playing. I think he's under contract for at least one more year.
I believe so.
That doesn't matter so much, but they could be looking for that spot faster than you think, and he could be a guy that we're talking about this year more than we want to be for the wrong reasons.
I know, training camp, especially at this position, can sometimes be limiting in terms of the information you glean from it. But what have been your impressions to this point from both Falk and Oladejo?
I think Falk's been pretty good. For a guy making a jump into a totally different thing. We know how limited he was at Auburn by their system and what he was asked to do and how much freedom he's given. I think most guys, let me generalize this, most guys whose freedom expands and who are asked to do more, not who are asked to do more, that's the wrong way to put it, who have more defined roles that give them a more exciting role. So Falk doesn't have to sit and read and take up bodies. He's allowed to go. I think if you have physical gifts, your game stands to get a lot better and probably at a faster rate. And I think Falk probably fits that as much as anyone here. I'm a much more wait and see on Oladejo. I think he's got a chance, but I think he's probably going to play more rundowns than passing downs until he wins his way into passing downs. There's a crowd of guys who obviously are conceivably passing down worthy. They've got four of them there. I'd rank him fourth. Jacob Martin just hurt his knee.
Yep.
We have to see if that means anything. I could see this coaching staff getting a lot out of Oladejo and things turning out great. I could see Oladejo being a guy who just doesn't fit the system really and turns out being like a run stuffing fourth defensive end who doesn't have that much of a future. And I think there's some people out there who, have made too much of what he has done or hasn't done so far. Made a couple plays in the scrimmage, and I saw one headline like he really, really bolstered his case out there at Nissan Stadium, and I just think that's premature.
Yeah. We talked earlier in the show about Nick Singleton, who is making some plays in camp. I think it's interesting, PK, because I try to forecast what this means for a regular season, and I think that's almost entirely dependent on Tony Pollard, right? Like if Pollard is healthy and Pollard is productive, then you're probably just not going to see a ton of Nick Singleton. But what have been your impressions for him? And, what do you make of, like, if you're Borgonzi kind of looking at this, knowing that your running back room is totally up in the air beyond this year? How do you think Singleton factors into the kind of the future of that position?
Well, I think Singleton had a nice day in Santa Clara, but I wonder if he didn't get his chance at his nice day in Santa Clara because Khalil Mullings was out.
Yep.
And we didn't get a chance to ask specifically about Khalil Mullings, but last we heard on Friday night he's being checked for a hip pointer. So he's either got a hip pointer or he's got some kind of hip deal. But Singleton looked pretty good. With that was his first big volume day, I would say, and I thought he did a nice job. Again, I thought they ran pretty well, and I thought they defended the run pretty well. But San Francisco's running back, they were pretty far down the depth chart. But running well in a joint practice, not just Singleton, everybody, they're not taking anybody to the ground. Right. You get tagged and you keep running, and where are you technically marked it down is something that those of us on the sideline, I don't know that the coaches really have a sense of it until they go watch the film. So I think he's encouraging for where he is and they are right now. But again, where's he getting carries? I mean, if Pollard and Spears are healthy, you could say, well, Mullings could get some short yardage carries. Where's Singleton getting in the game?
Right.
I mean, you give him a series once in a while. I always feel now, look, I've covered a team that's, had Eddie George and Chris Brown, even you could count, but certainly Chris Johnson and Derrick Henry. Not a lot of room to give a guy a series in those scenarios. And so, there are places, I admit, where my philosophy has been built out of the Titans' philosophy because I've seen the things that the Titans have made work over that and said, yeah, that's a good way to operate a football team. Not many, granted, but some. And in the run game, that's my preferred run game style. Get a lead back and give them the ball most of the time. Now, Pollard's not going to get 25 carries most of the time, but Spears is going to be the guy that takes away from that. And I don't know where you find snaps for Singleton if everything's going well there.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Titans taking on the Niners in their preseason opener tonight. We'll get into that with PK coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com is with us here on the program, taking your questions for PK at 615-737-1025. Joe, PK, one question for you from a texter says, who do you think is going to be the sixth receiver, or do you think they're going to carry six receivers?
That's good that he or she brought that up, because I do think that it's time for us to start thinking about the idea that they won't carry a sixth. I mean, there's a very hard line after Chim DK and Alec Manor on this roster. That next guy's got to be supremely gifted special teamer and a very versatile receiver. I think, I know there's a lot of support out there for Restrepo, and Restrepo is now the second best pure slot guy. But did they need a pure slot guy behind Robinson? I mean, who of the other four receivers can't step into the slot? We haven't seen Tate there, but he could do it. But certainly Ridley's done it in the past. And DK was there last year, and Manor can do it. So I don't think you need it. And Restrepo still is lacking as a special teamer. Did see him, I think, on punt return, not as an outside guy, working in Santa Clara. Bryce Oliver, I know Fossil would probably make a case for him, loves him on special teams. And, at some point, all of those back end positions, you're just going to keep a really good special teamer who may not be terrific at your position. It's a good receiver, not of the level of the rest of those guys. Who else am I leaving out there? KJ Osborne, would be a good backup returner, could do your kickoff returning if you wanted to lessen DK's work. But, DK gives you the most potential there. And if he's not in the heavy in the wide receiver rotation, you'd rather him doing it. I think Osborne, Restrepo, Oliver are still the primary guys, but I'm less confident than I've been in a long time that they keep a sixth.
So for tonight's game, how much would you like to see the starting offensive line play? How much do you think we will see the starting offensive line play? And what's your take on what that starting offensive line is going to look like by the time week one rolls around?
I think, if Saleh said, more than one series. So, how long is that play wise? I don't know. I would guess like they'd love to get maybe 20 plays, something like that.
Would you leave them out there longer than you'd leave like Cam Ward and Tate out there, just based on the need for that group to play actual meaningful reps together?
I doubt it. I mean, I think Tate would play less than Cam conceivably because of the things we're talking about. They have confidence in those extra wide receivers. They don't want, and those wide receivers have no real bearing on Cam's safety. They should be in the right spots. The line obviously has a bearing on Ward's safety. So Ward's not going to play with the second line. They'll be in there together. I don't think, again, that first unit on the defensive line for San Francisco shouldn't have been able to do what it ultimately did at times against the Titans in practice. And now those top guys aren't going to be out there. So, I mean, if I'm the Titans coaches, I'm thinking this offensive line ought to be able to handle what San Francisco's going to bring from a pass rush thing. I want to see it happen, and I would let it go for a while. But it's all, you have a plan, and then you have to adjust based on how the game unfolds. And so they'll see that. I would think around 20 plays for the frontline guys. If they go out there and they have a 12 play series, I still think they get a second series. If that's a 3 and out, will that be enough? Maybe, maybe not.
On the offensive line front, I mean, clearly, Nick Suss brought this up yesterday. You've got guys in the interior that you're going to want to keep. You don't want to keep, a ton of them. So you got to cross train some of them. So like on Jackson Slater, for instance, we talked all offseason about maybe him starting at right guard. Now he's taking some reps at center. Is that just, cross training in your mind? Like what do you think that means for Slater and kind of the interior of that line?
I think that's cross training, but I also think right guard is slipping away probably from Jackson Slater. It's a little early still. I think Bolson probably starts tonight at right guard, and then I think Slater probably starts at right guard in the second game. But from what we've seen, it's more Volson and more variety. We've seen some Carmona there. And so, Schlotman is clearly the center.
Yeah.
And if you have a rooting interest in right guard, I've got no problem with Volson, but it'd be better for everybody if Slater won it because you've got 3 more years of contractual control, because he's a 6th round draft pick who would have panned out. All of those things would be healthy for the Titans as opposed to a 1-year stopgap guy who, if he had a good season, you clearly would try to sign again, I think. Unless you really felt good about Slater in the 3rd year or Carmona. I just think it would settle a lot more for a lot longer if Slater won. But look, Slater played some with the 1s and some with the 3s in Santa Clara. So obviously that's a guy who's still in flux.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. One more segment with PK coming up next. We'll get to the Rob rant. Take your thoughts on the Titans. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
This dude is an idiot.
Tajay Sharp dropped a pass.
And that was at the time when it actually was Tajay Sharp and not Tajay
Yes,
Spears.
I almost said Spears.
Carnell
Yeah.
Tate is a guy who's going to change things and take us back to the era of A.J. Brown.
I don't like this media guy. Just bring your cameras on down.
Pitch and kid.
Where's he in terms of knowing everything, Mike?
Everything? Yeah, I mean, I don't think everybody besides you knows everything.
I'm imagining PK eating a blueberry pie on the moon right now.
What are you doing? I say babies. What do you do?
The Niners just don't want to say it, but that's what it is. It's the substation.
I think I might have torn my PCL doing leg curls.
Oh, they better not take Levis.
I don't know what to say to that. It is time for the Rob Rant, served by the Wine Cellar in Hendersonville. PK with us here on the program for one more segment. Got Charles Robinson coming up at 8 o'clock. All right, I'm going to address this for the final time. Let this be on record. This is the final time I'm going to talk about this because, quite frankly, I'm sick of it. So we got a text earlier today, unnamed number. You know, if Levis plays really well tonight, do you think the Titans get a 5th-round pick for him?
Oh, dear God.
Guys, nobody wants Will Levis right now. Nobody. So I don't think we're going to go from nobody wanting Will Levis to somebody giving up a 5th-round pick for him. Now, if he plays well in the preseason, could the Titans potentially get somebody to trade like a 7th-round pick for Will Levis? Maybe. We'll see what happens. But right now, he's the 3rd-string quarterback. PK, correct me if I'm wrong because you're out there every day. It doesn't sound like it's going overly well for him at training camp so far. And there's zero interest in him around the league based on what you've reported, based on the conversations we've had here on the show, and based on the fact that nobody's even attempted to trade for him at this point. So can we stop for the final time with the 5th-round, 4th-round pick stuff for Will Levis? It is not happening. It's the final time I'm addressing it.
Does this delusional, I mean, I think the proportion has shrunk, but there's just a segment of the Titans population that is delusional about his value and his skill right now. Now, I'm not dismissing the odds that he could go sit somewhere, learn, and reemerge as a better player. I don't know about a starter. I don't think he's going to be Sam Darnold. But the idea, I mean, there's still people out there that think he should be competing with Cam. Look, we're watching him every day. He's not gotten, maybe a scooch better. Did you see the play filmed from the stands where he too quickly rolled out right, indecisively, couldn't decide what to do, fell on his ass and threw it all at the same time? I mean, that's Will Levis. That's who he is. He's a likable guy, but this love of him, I don't know if it's still rooted in Kentucky fandom or what. And the idea that he got such a raw deal because the coaching and the roster were so bad for him. There are a ton of guys that fit that bill. Ton of guys who fit that bill who could be in their training camp now in better circumstances, doing better than he's doing. He's not like a singular case of this kind of struggle.
I mean, at some point, you just you are what you are, man. Like, and it's not very good. So, I mean, look, if he gets out there tonight and he's taking on 3rd stringers, like he ought to be able to play pretty well. Like he needs to go out there and play. I mean, he's a former starting quarterback in the league. He ought to get out there and play well tonight. I can already envision the Levis to Restrepo connection that we're going to see tonight. And boy, will that be fun to talk about tomorrow on that front. But at this point, could you get a 7th-round pick for him? That's kind of where we're at on the Will Levis front. So hopefully he'll play well tonight. We'll see what that looks like. PK.
And what's more valuable, a 7th or, a move up in the 6th?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a great question. PK, if you had to identify maybe a couple things that you're most interested in watching tonight for the Titans in the preseason opener against San Francisco, what would they be?
Well, Cam's decision-making obviously is going to be number one at that list. What goes on at right guard, I think. Those Those are the big two. I've been really interested in the screen game, and I've written about that. So I'd like to see how the screen game works against another team and how the Titans react to being screened, because that's weak point of this defense is maybe a little strong, but that's a way to stress this defense. So let's see how all this work on the get off and getting up on a quarterback against Rourke, their third string quarterback. The Titans were very good. So we'll see. They're going to be some DBs making some plays against him, I think.
Yeah, that part of it is going to be interesting. We got somebody on the text line asking about Ridley, how he's looked in camp, and is there a chance that somebody would take him via trade for like a swing tackle?
Why? They find it. We're just talking about the fact that they could conceivably keep 5 receivers and have a nice 5-pack, and he's one of the starting 3 wide receivers. So why do you get rid of that and immediately undo your depth at a position that has been a struggle forever, that I'm not fully bought into, by the way, because training camp depth at wide receiver we've seen before, and then we've seen it not be deep during the season.
Well, and also, I'm sure there would be people out there that would be interested in Calvin Ridley, but I don't know how many NFL teams are interested in giving up functional tackles. There's just not enough functional tackles in the league. So, whether they're starting or not, like if you have a good swing tackle, that's a valuable commodity to have.
Yeah, but this is a big Titans thing. As soon as they look to be semi-complete at a position, fans immediately want to undo that. Hey, we're too complete at this position. We're not used to that. Let's undo that.
Somebody wondering if Pat Coogan getting any meaningful reps out there.
If you're looking for one of the rookies who might see some time, it's Carmona. Meaningful time in down the road.
Yeah, that's kind of the book on Coogan there. All right, last thing for you, PK, on the defensive side of the ball. We probably don't talk about him enough, considering the fact that they've taken a second rounder and a first rounder there in the last 2 years. What have been your thoughts on the way that Jermaine Johnson has looked to this point in camp?
Oh, I haven't noticed him. I mean, he's as far as I can tell, 5th at best outside, and if we're talking about 5th outside, we've got some issues to discuss about what the Titans are doing at edge.
Jermaine Johnson's 5th?
Who do you're saying Jermaine?
Yeah, sorry.
You're saying Trumaine.
Oh, sorry, Jermaine.
No, yeah,
that's my
Jermaine. Jermaine. Yeah, sorry. I thought that was a weird question. Yeah, I think he's a solid guy, especially on rundowns. I think I'm expecting them to be very sturdy on rundowns, and to be hard to run against inside the tackles. And he's going to be a big part of that. I'm curious to see what he can do as a pass rusher. I think that's where the question is about him, and he's another one of those guys that should benefit from John Franklin Myers, who I don't think we'll see tonight, and Simmons, and look, contract year. I think he's probably one of those guys who, he's got a lot of things to say about what kind of player he is and his expectations, kind of the swagger, good swagger, not bad swagger. And so I think we should be eager to see how he looks. Tremaine Jones, I think. Trumaine Jones. Jermaine. Yeah, I got myself tied up there. My bad.
Well, I just thought you were breaking some news on the show. I was like, Jermaine Johnson's 5th outside. We got a big problem, boys.
Yeah, don't repeat that.
Big problem out there. PK, enjoy the game tonight. Thank you for taking time to be with us and being dedicated to our program. We appreciate it.
Always dedicated. You're my boys. Although one of you's not there that often. Good to see you. Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.
Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com with us every week here on the program, normally Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. We'll have Charles Robinson with us coming up next from NFL Blue Book. We will get into the Titans and all things NFL with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Thursday morning at 8 o'clock can only mean one thing, and that it means we welcome in our friend Charles Robinson to the program on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Charles Robinson from NFLBlueBook.com. Charles, good morning, buddy. How we doing?
What's going on, man? It's funny. I've been in so many time zones in the last couple of weeks that I'm staring at my phone at like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, "What's going on with these guys?" I'm like, it's like 8:05. I'm like, "What? Are we late? Is the show running? Like, what's going on?" And then I realized I'm in Cleveland, in Eastern time zone, so I'm like completely an hour off of what I was getting pissed. I was like, "Why are we not on the show?"
These
right
guys
now?
suck, and they can't keep a clock. They can't get the commercial break on time.
Dude, it's been I got into Kansas City to see the Chiefs really late, like several days ago, and all these flights I'm scheduling late because I've been trying to do a lot of back-to-backs. So like I did at one point, I did 6 straight back-to-backs, and I had gone from let me think. Oh, I went from Titans to Chiefs. So I went from Titans to Chiefs, and like the flight was super late. Everything, it just got all messed up. So I get to my hotel. And, the Chiefs practice like at St. Joseph's, like, 45 minutes away from Kansas City. It's like 2 a.m. I fall asleep. I got to get up at like 6. And I wake up and I'm like, where am I? I was like, what hotel am I in? I'm like, where? And it took me a second to realize, I'm like, oh, I'm not in Nashville. I'm in Kansas City right now. Okay. I'm seeing the Chiefs today. Yeah. It's been that kind of, experience. And I thought I was doing, like, I'm on like, I want to say 12 or 13 now, but I ran into Albert Breer yesterday in Browns camp. Yep. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've done 17 in 17 days." And I was like, "Man, just screw off."
Yeah. I mean, what are we doing? Not some competition here, Albert. What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you how the stamina's holding up, but I mean, at least you know what state you're in this morning. That's good.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad because I finally get a couple of days break. I'm headed to Boston in a couple hours, but
nice.
See the Patriots. But I'm glad to have a little bit of break. It was nice to get through and see the Titans. That was a lot of fun just to kind of focus on the offense. And it sounds like it was a little uneven experience once they got out to San Francisco for the joints. But either way, it was good to get through and talk to some people in the building and just kind of see where they feel like the plan is stacking.
Well, let's start there. So you were with the Titans over the weekend. I think Sunday was the day you were out there watching the Titans. What maybe stood out to you the most while watching them, and maybe things that you talked about while you were here that really kind of stuck with you in the aftermath of that?
Well, when I was there, I'm mostly focused on the offense. I'm trying to get a feel for where Cam is at, and right away, I mean, Carnell Tate, it didn't take but maybe 15 minutes, and I was like, oh, wow, like, this guy is really, really good. And, as I kind of watched the progression of practice, seeing him, when they would do like 11 on 11 and they were doing, move the ball work and red zone work, just seeing how they used, they're moving him around. He's in motion. He can play outside, he can play inside. I'm sure at some point, they'll fiddle with, some slot snaps just to kind of throw some different wrinkles in there. But I mean, he was really impressive. Like watching him, there are a couple of balls where you could see like he went through contact to get, to make the catch. You can see why he, the fact that he catches the football was such a huge part of his evaluation. You can just see it. Like his hands are great. And, he caught a corner touchdown in the end zone. I was there at one point where it's just tight coverage, but he put his body in the perfect position. Like it just, I thought to myself, like I had been through several camps at that point. I'm like, this is the best rookie I've seen so far. Like, I mean, he just looks so good. And, I went through Cardinals camp. I'm sure the Cardinals would love if Marvin Harrison Jr. look like this right now. Like Cardinal Tate sticks out more in a practice than Marvin Harrison Jr. Has at this point. And I think part of what was interesting talking to people in the building, not only about the relationship that Cam is building with him. And one thing that happened in practice that I thought was really interesting too is I'm focusing on Carnell Tate. And when you watch rookies, if you go in, you're like, I'm going to watch this rookie. Like, let me see not just what he's doing on the field, but let me see what he's doing in between snaps. Let me see what he's doing when the second team offense is out there, third team offense is out there, because rookies can become, I don't want to say become distracted, but they're just, you just kind of watch, are they like talking to other guys and not focusing on what's going on in the field or whatever. He was like hyper focused on watching reps, like reps that he was not in. He's focused on the field. He's watching the second team, he's watching the third team. He's watching different situational things. And at one point when the second team offense was in and they were doing some red zone stuff, Cam had kind of floated off onto an island by himself and was watching. And I was focusing on Tate, and Tate immediately kind of gravitated right up next to Cam, and you could see them watching the reps together and talking. And it's a really good thing to see, especially when you take a guy with the fourth overall pick. That's his inclination in practice, is to let me be right next to the quarterback. Let me be, talking about what's going on in the field. And, I took that as a really good sign of where the tandem's going. But again, getting back to talking to people inside the building about Cam, clearly the emphasis is they're working short to intermediate to long with Cam, which is like they're just getting Cam into the mindset. And this is very much, it reminds me a lot of like Josh Allen and Brian Daboll. Here's what's in front of you. Like let's play it conservative, and we'll open it up as we go. That we know you have no problem opening it up. We know you have no problem, breaking pocket and making a play happen, or basically going for it. Let's pull it back, and let's start with, the short, what's given to you. And if we can wire you to the point where you're taking what's given to you, we can move on to that next stage and open it up a little more and open it up a little more. Now, that'll be a little frustrating for some of the downfield receivers. Like, I think they've been happy with what they've seen from like Alec Ayomanor, but I think they also know we're really trying to do things right now. We're not trying to go down the field a lot with Cam right now, because we know he's got not only the ability to do that, but the motivation to do that. Let's instead work on the short to intermediate stuff and just get him locked in on that. Once we can get that consistently in his mind to just move the ball, then we can start to press it and push it further into his comfort zone of making big plays. And I think you could see that on the field. I thought Cam looked really good. When I was out there, you could see the progress, and you could definitely see him. I'd had that conversation in the building before I went out on the field, and then I watched, and I'm like, I can see it. I can see this guy trying to take what's there first and being a little conservative. And to me, that showcases some year two growth.
Well, I think Titans fans will be excited to hear that. I mean, if the big headline in the NFL yesterday, Charles, was Kyler Murray winning the starting job in Minnesota, and that's no secret that was going to happen. You've been talking about that for months. I guess the other quarterback battle that I'm really interested in right now is, what does Cleveland do? Like, is Deshaun Watson going to start? Right. Is it going to be Shedeur Sanders? What do you kind of come down on what's going to happen with the Browns here?
Well, so I was in Browns camp yesterday, and it is a true competition. Like, it's clear that it's, they're splitting reps between these guys. Deshaun will start the first preseason game, but it's not, I don't want to say it's meaningless, because, I think being the quarterback who goes out first, two things happen. I've often seen that first impression, especially if it's a really good impression, will anchor and resonate moving forward for a staff, especially if you can be consistent and build on it. And you can go out as the first quarterback to start the first preseason game and really put yourself, in the driver's seat of quarterback competition. And then the second part that can happen with that is you can put pressure on the other guy. Like, so now Shedeur Sanders, if Deshaun Watson goes out and plays well, Shedeur Sanders is sitting there going, okay, well, now I have to match that. I have to, you can feel a little more pressure and want to push it and then potentially make mistakes. And so it can certainly compound things. That's why it mattered, I think, who the Browns put out there first in the first preseason game. But, watching them in practice, you can kind of see each player, what they kind of bring to the table. Watson, despite the injuries, I think he's moving pretty well. I still think there are, turnover concerns with him. And then with Shedeur, at times when you watch him in practice, there's some downfield accuracy concerns. His ball's not always like super clean. He threw Isaiah Bond laid out and made an unbelievable catch in practice, a big play catch down the field. And it was kind of a wobbler that Shedeur had thrown. Now that, the spatial placement was great, but it wasn't the cleanest spiral. It's just, you can see the things that they're both trying to work through. And, I just talking to Todd Monken, the head coach, he flat out, he's like, look, man, I'm just taking the guy who can give us the best chance to win. I just want to win football games. Like, I really don't care how the quarterback does it. He's like, and we'll ask them to do it in different ways over the course of a game, but it's going to be which guy, puts us in the best position to win. It's not about youth. It's not about age. It's not about experience. It's not about who's had injuries or who we've paid. He just doesn't care. And he kind of laughed and, he made a joke about like, he's in his 60s. Like, he's like, I don't have time to do anything else right now. He's like, the only thing I can think about, he's like, this is probably my last job. He's like, so, I have to win football games right now. So I think the exhibition games will matter for the Browns. But if you ask me, am I certain the 2027 starter is on this roster right now? I'm not. I don't think we'll know that until we watch him play throughout the regular season.
So, Charles, going back on Kansas City, like obviously they're interesting because of who they are and the foundation that they've already built. You got Mahomes coming off the injury. You got Travis Kelce and what kind of feels like is going to be his final year here. You've reshaped some of the team, and you brought in Kenneth Walker, high draft pick at corner with Delane coming in. So, there are a lot of people that think they're just going to pick it back up and be right back toward the top of the list of AFC contenders. I am very fascinated by them because, I think it could go a bunch of different directions with Kansas City this year. How do you feel about the Chiefs as they're stepping into things with Mahomes back in the fold?
Well, two things that are interesting. Number one, I think they would have drafted Carnell Tate if Tate had gotten past 4, and if the draft had fallen the right way. I do think that's the guy they would have moved up and drafted. You go through, and I think having seen Kansas City for a long time and the rise of Mahomes and how the previous iteration of all those Super Bowl teams were built, you look at them now and you feel the reach for leadership. They're looking, particularly on offense, you can see the transition, and they're like, okay, we need to find an identity with this next wave. Obviously, Mahomes is there. That's always going to be your centerpiece. That's always going to be the rock that will be there. But you can feel it. Like, Kelsey's transitioning his way out, obviously. Tyreek Hill was such a huge part of those early teams. They've never really found that again in the wide receiving core. It's weird because like Tyquan Thornton's really become a big leader in the wide receiver room. And I'm curious to kind of see how that goes forward, because he's not the most talented guy in the room. And so it's just interesting to have a set of receivers, a guy who's, he fills a good, capable role for them, but you would like it to be Rashee Rice. You would like it to be the uber talented alpha in that room to really be leading the room. So you can feel them trying to figure out, where are we going to get beyond Patrick Mahomes as we transition and move forward? Where are we going to get that identity from? I actually think Kenneth Walker has sort of stepped into that void because of the way he practices, because of the mentality he brings on the field. He's had like multiple kind of little scuffles in practices. Like he's got like an edginess to him, a physicality to him. And I don't think they have a problem defensively on the leadership side. Nick Bolton really has filled that role, but Walker has stepped in this camp and just given a little bit of toughness, I think, to the Kansas City offense that they lacked, and a little bit of attitude and, the willingness to go out there and push around the defense and basically try to apply themselves. So it's interesting just to kind of see them in that transition mode. It's rare that you bring in a free agent running back and then he kind of becomes a little bit of a tone setter for you. but that's where they're at. I don't, with what you said, I don't know how that will translate on the field.
Yeah.
Moving into the regular season, but it's certainly not. This is not the classically led, bunch of veterans that they've had, leading the way now. They're definitely reaching for some leadership on that offense. And Mahomes looks fine. I mean, physically he's fine, but it's just the surrounding pieces where, particularly on offense, you can see them trying to figure out who are we going to be and who's going to be, the individuals that are going to shape that.
So, Charles, I'm looking at the Bears and the year that they had last year. Obviously, Ben Johnson steps in. They have a great first year. They win a playoff game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's the way that went down. And I'm reading a quote that Ben Johnson had with The Athletic. He said, quote, you got 31 other teams coming to training camp saying our goal is to win the Super Bowl. I want more than that. I want to have the highest scoring offense ever, which happens to be the 2013 Denver Broncos. I know how many points per game they scored, and I want to surpass them. I want shutouts. I want blowouts. Like, Ben Johnson has never really been afraid to speak his mind there. How do you – they've had some injuries that they're dealing with in camp. How do you foresee this going in year two with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, that partnership together? Are they going to build on what they did last year? Could they be a candidate for maybe a significant step back? How do you view the Bears heading into all this?
Yeah, it's funny, too, because Ben's done a good job, and I think this is it's pointed in the way that he's doing it, of really drawing the focus to himself. So he talked earlier in camp about, hey, we might be the regression. We're one of the regression candidates because of how we won games last year, and I think that raised some eyebrows because you don't often hear a head coach step to a podium and basically say, hey, yeah, that's a danger that we're the regression candidate this year. And then, as you said, he's touted wanting to have this, uber explosive offense that puts up points like a pinball machine. And again, I think that's him drawing it to himself while also putting some pressure that he thinks, Caleb Williams and the offense can handle. Luther Burden goes down with a groin. That's problematic because, Burden was certainly, I think, going to be kind of that X factor type in the offense. And they're confident he's going to be out there, week one. I don't think he'll see much of the field, the rest of the preseason, but they feel like he's going to be in good enough shape to go week one. But that's still snaps that you lose. That's continuity that you lose. That's rhythm that you lose. I will say Rome Odunze looked really good when I was in practice with them. He kind of had an up and down second season. It feels like he's sort of settling into what should be that number one role for him. Colston Loveland, he could be this perennial 1,000-yard, tight end, like explosive. He looks fantastic when you watch him. You can see they really want to lean into him being a significant mismatch player, moving into his second season. I just think it's all going to depend on health. It's all going to depend on, how the offensive line holds up. Caleb Williams looks really confident. He seems a lot more mature to me. When you listen to him talk, you see how he runs the offense. You can see him. He's applying himself in a way where he's like, okay, this is my offense now. I'm taking ownership of it. I'm the lead. Everyone's looking at me. The way he speaks to the media is a little bit different. Physically, he looks better. I know there was some he talked about losing. I think he said he lost like 15 pounds in the off season. You can see that, in him. There's just a level of confidence that I think now is settling in for some of these young guys. But losing Burden, that's tough, and we'll see how that manifests itself early in the season. But I don't look. Johnson's clearly one of the best play callers in the NFL. I think he can shape this as long as the offensive line is healthy and consistent. I think they're definitely going to be an explosive team. And I think Caleb, I hate to say this because I did this with CJ Stroud early in his career where I'm like, I already see this guy kind of on a league MVP path. I think Caleb's on that trajectory, but every time I say that, the guy goes into the tank. So I guess I'm.
Can you say it, please? That'd be nice.
I put the Madden curse substation, the substation curse on the Bears and Caleb Williams right there.
By the way, Titans got through a practice, only one injury on the substation front. So I feel like that's pretty good. We'll see how it goes tonight.
Did PK make it through the substation?
PK made it through. He said he was standing right next to it, though. Said maybe short-term exposure to the substation.
You can't not be. Like, you can't not be standing right next to it. And kind of a funny story when I went through Niners, I don't know if I told you this last week or not, but when I went through Niners, you know, they changed the way that they allow the media to shoot practice.
Yeah.
And so, and they didn't think about it. And so, like, I guess apparently, you know, Kyle Shanahan like went off like he's like, every clip I'm watching, the substation's in the background. All that. I'm like, yeah, somebody didn't think that through when it came to the media shooting practice, because now it's literally, it's like instead of a skyline or trees, it's this massive set of like power lines and transformers.
So I was watching the Hall of Fame speeches last weekend, Charles, and you know, Drew Brees gets up there and Sean Payton sitting at the crowd, and you know, it got me just thinking about the Broncos the year they had a year ago. Obviously, it was a great year for them. You got Bo Nix coming off the injury, stepping into things this year. I still like, I look at that defense and the way that it's built, and I just think there's like such a high floor for the Broncos based on how good their defense is. And, you know, we'll see if Bo Nix ends up being a player that like leads them to Super Bowls moving forward. But like, I think the Broncos have some staying power here. Number one, I think Sean Payton's a great coach. But number two, that defense is just so nasty that I think they're going to be really good for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think the defense, they're not, I went through the Broncos, they're not worried about the defense. And like you said, I mean, that really is their high floor. They know that, you know, they're going to have a defense that should be able to limit opponents to, you know, the low 20s, which nowadays in the NFL, if you can limit a team to the low 20s, most teams score in the mid 20s, you're going to win a lot of games. But there is some, when you talk to people inside the organization, this is another one of those teams where they're like, yeah, we are kind of a regression candidate, because I think they were 11-3 in one score games last year. They caught a lot of green lights at times in games. And the big thing for them, what they're really preaching is we can't get off to slow starts. Not only can we not get off, we can't get off to slow start, like winning and losing early in the season. Like we have to win games early, authoritatively, and then also in games themselves. You know, they want to offensively crank it up, you know, earlier and not have to depend on the defense to carry them until they can find a rhythm. When I was in practice, I will say, I think Bo Nix is fine, you know, but he kind of felt to me, and again, I'm only in for a day, so take this, you know, let's take it with a grain of salt. He looked a little slow, just slightly. And I wonder if that's just, you know, because of the off season having to heal from the late season injury. And I think he'll be fine, but there's certainly things that they have to sort out there. There's kind of a running back by committee that they're still figuring out. I think the wide receivers, you know, Cortland Sutton is what he is. I think he's, you know, there's a level of consistency that he brings to the table, but then they have some younger players that they're, you know, Marvin Mims really, I think, needs to take a pretty good stride forward. Troy Franklin, guys that fill out the depth chart, I think at that position, they're really expecting, you know, to take a really big step forward for them to go where they want. Defensively, as you said, they're going to be fine. I don't think there's any question about that. Injuries, you know, as long as injuries don't hit them, I don't think that will ultimately be the issue. But it's getting Nix in that rhythm early is going to be really important, you know, for them. And again, when you talk to people in the building, they'll tell you we won a lot of games last year, but we were on the margins in a lot of areas, and that can't happen again because you can't do that in back-to-back seasons because you're depending on some luck, you know, to have that 11-3 record in one score games.
Is this a training camp tour that you're on taking you through Buffalo at any point?
It is not.
Okay.
I actually was going to make a decision. I could have gone to Buffalo or New England, and I chose New England.
Probably a good call. I was just going to see, like, if you were ended up in Buffalo, maybe you could do public service and take care of the sightline problems in the new stadium, which is just amazing to me that we're dealing with this.
That's crazy. Like you
guys not think there's maybe football being played down there?
The first thing I saw was the scoreboards, right? And I'm like, wow, you just don't see modern, you know, multi-billion-dollar stadiums built nowadays with jumbo, like quote unquote jumbotrons that are no longer jumbo, like mini-trons. I mean, almost. I looked at it and I'm like, wow, that seems. I don't want to say cheap, but like you don't go into modern stadiums and not have a massive video monitor. So I'm like, all right, well, if that's the worst, okay, it keeps the focus on the field, I guess. There's something that sort of plays into that. But then I was like, well, if your focus is on the field and there's a glass kind of stairway your way, or there's bad sight lines, and then that's when all the stuff started to roll in, where it's just like all these different bad angles. And I've never seen a stadium rollout get pressed like this, just poor and not driven by media, driven by fans.
Yeah, the Bills Mafia is very upset.
Yeah, extremely upset. I'm glad that the planners and the contractors implemented the neat kind of broken table thing into the design in the concourse. I guess that's cool, but maybe you should have focused on how fans are actually looking at the field and whether parts of the field are blocked from certain seats. And yeah, it's unfortunate that this is kind of rolled out the way that it has, and I'm sure they're just begging for football to start as soon as possible so that they can just get past this. Bill, I would expect a lot of Bills fans can prepare to stand most of the game because that might be what it takes to see the field anyway.
I mean, I saw some of these pictures. I was like, how is this possible in 2026 where you're building a new stadium and this is the sight line for some of these seats? It's just amazing to me that it played out that way.
That's the first conversation, right? That I think you have to have is like, what's the fan experience, which is how it's like, okay, how big I know this is stupid because most people are like, you shouldn't be looking at the video monitor. You shouldn't be looking at the quote unquote Jumbotron anyway. You should be looking at the field. But when you're spending that amount on a stadium, it's, if that is not where money is going, you have to be able to say, okay, well, this is where the rest of it went. And it just feels like, there were clearly mistakes made, and you have to hope that, hint, hint, future stadiums built by NFL franchises take heed what happened in Buffalo and make sure that your stadium has good sight lines.
Charles, have fun on the continued training camp tour. Tell Vrabel we said hello in your next stop, and we will talk to you next week, my friend.
I will do that. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Charles Robinson, our guest from NFLBlueBook.com. Go subscribe today to NFLBlueBook.com. He is on his training camp tour. I think stop number 14.
I'm loving the he's got some fantasy football nuggets there at the end of some of these posts. I'm loving it. A little fantasy angle. Somebody asked, I think it was Dylan Antioch, about our Robby and Rexrode fantasy football league.
Gonna start putting that together next week.
Gonna have to repeat for my crown, try and come back and go for 2 years in a row. So looking forward to getting some spots filled on that coming up quickly.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that next week. We'll react to what Charles had to say. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. The Sounds taking on Indianapolis today at First Horizon Park. First pitch at 6:35. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, Maple Street Biscuit Company, and Social Cantina. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping, outdoor patios, landscaping design, lawn maintenance, and more. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Charles Robinson for being with us in the last segment. I will say, Ian, very interesting perspective from Charles on what he saw from Titans camp. And he said, at the time he came in, he was watching Carnell Tate out there and said, yeah, that's probably the best rookie that I've seen so far. So that's good news.
Gotta love to hear that.
If you're a Titans fan. And I did love the Marvin Harrison Jr. comparison. I was like, yeah, the Cardinals would probably give an arm and a leg for Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point to look as good as Carnell Tate has looked in camp. So,
yeah, that's got to be,
that's good.
That's good. Although Marvin Harrison Jr. has been pretty disappointing.
Yes.
For the Cardinals.
Especially considering that he was out of like all of them really supposed to be the surest thing.
Yep.
And it just hasn't really worked out.
I wonder, that is interesting. He's a big, strong, fast kid.
I mean, he
kept getting hurt last year.
He played against the Titans last year and he looked good. Like I thought he was going to have 300 yards in the game, and then they stopped throwing the ball to him, and he created the most incredible way to lose a football game I've ever seen.
It was it was weird. And like when he was out, McBride and Michael Wilson were putting up all types of numbers from Brissett. Like he was just throwing the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
Then Harrison comes in, and it was almost like they were, trying to get him the ball or something. And the whole target share without him was all out of whack, and with him was all weird. This interesting situation there. When you throw in Harrison, McBride, and Jeremiah Love, if you're Arizona, you would think it'd be a little bit of a skill position players there, even though you have to figure out your quarterback situation. But the rest of it on offense looks not too bad, you would think.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, that part of it, from like, if it's not going to happen this year for Harrison, then you start to look at it and you say, okay,
that might not be it.
What's going on here? So that part is interesting. But good stuff on the Tate front from Charles Robinson there as well. The training camp tour that he's under, first off, sounds exhausting. But he is, I believe, on top 14 coming up.
Crazy.
New England.
Yeah. Hey.
The Rapester.
New England versus Buffalo. That's a tough one to choose there, huh?
Yeah.
Buffalo's an interesting team this year, too.
They are.
Josh Allen, you got your coach fired. You're bringing in the OC, starting a new stadium.
Yep.
Apparently, what's up with that, huh? Weird with the new stadium.
Can't see anything in there. I some of the pictures that came out, first off, I hope the Titans learn from this. I mean, I know, the stadium is.
We're on track to start here in a few months, right? February?
So I don't know how much you can do about it at this point, but it's amazing to me in 2026, you can build a new stadium if you're Buffalo and then sit down and be like, oh, wait, you can't really see the football field from here. It's like, could you guys not know that while you were building this thing? It's amazing to me.
All that money, billions of dollars going into this stuff, and how something like that could be overlooked is a little bit, I don't know if worrisome is the word, but you're like, okay, what's going on here? How do you guys do this and not have that part figured out?
It's incredible. Titans taking on the 49ers tonight in preseason game number 1. Take your thoughts on what you are most looking forward to tonight. A lot of those thoughts have rolled in throughout the show. Keep them coming. 615-737-1025. I mentioned it earlier. The player on offense I would most like to see do well tonight. I mean, you could go Cam if you want to. I don't think he's going to be in there very long. You could go Tate. There's a lot of different ways you could go. Mine's Latham, and mine's going to be Latham, I think, for a while. Of you need to see not only competence, but growing into being a good player. He needs to be a reliable, foundational player for you. So I'd like to see him have some good reps out there tonight, play well, not have any penalties, not allow any sacks against what is going to be significant backups that the 49ers will be playing against the Titans starters tonight. And then on the defensive side, Femi Oladejo, I'm interested to see the way that he plays. It was not an especially encouraging report on the Oladejo front from Kuharsky earlier in the program, which was basically he's basically a rundown player, and maybe at some point this year he will graduate into being more trustworthy on passing downs. But right now he's like a run stopper.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems to make sense to me, just given his I don't want to say body type, but I wonder if he is like that quick get off explosive guy versus just the big, strong, powerful guy. If you're the quick burst right off, the first step, I guess, is super important in the solid defense for the front four, for the pass rush. Is he that guy, the quick twitch kind of guy, or is he more the first, second down, set the edge kind of player? So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in this defense in general. I thought it was interesting from Kuharsky. He said he would ideally think 20 snaps for Cam Ward.
Yeah,
that seems a bit
significant
high.
amount. Yeah,
for a first preseason game, usually it's like 10 or 12.
Yeah, like I guess that depends on
how well you do.
Yeah, like if your first drives, 11 or 12 plays, and you're committed to coming out there for a couple of series, maybe you run up against that 20 play mark pretty quickly. Now, I also wouldn't be surprised, like if the Titans go out there and they sustain some 9-10 play drive and they score,
maybe
you pull the plug at that point and say,
seen enough. Yeah,
yep, seen enough out there. Or I mean, what you don't want to see is the starting offense goes out there and goes 3 and out a couple of drives in a row, and it's like, okay, so there's 2 drives. Do you leave them back out there after that? Like you want to see them move the ball a little bit.
Oh yeah, if they went 3 and out in the first drive, oh boy, that's not fun at all. Especially 8:00 start. That's a late start for a preseason game. I guess out there it's 6:00, so it's not too. I guess you can't go too much earlier than that for the West Coast. What are you gonna do there? But yeah, and they better not go 3 and out on the first drive. We got to get at least one first down here.
Yeah, come on, man. Hey, I mentioned earlier the preseason games and like the value. Like you're not seeing a lot of exotic looks from the opposing defense. One thing it will be interesting to see is like they've broken off some running plays in camp. And it's always interesting in camp. It's like nobody's tackling anybody. So what do the running plays actually look like? I'm interested to see if the Titans can.
Let's get some work. You mentioned him earlier in the show as somebody who could be fun to watch tonight. So I will be keeping my eye on him, and Tate, of course, too.
Yep.
How much he plays and where they line him up. If he's only outside, they move him around. Is he motioning? All that kind of stuff. That'll be fun to watch. Although I guess preseason wise, you're not going to get too much game planning, but still.
Over under 7.5 catches for the strep tonight.
That's what you're setting it at?
7.5.
Okay.
He's going to be out there.
7.5, huh?
Just pepper him with the ball. Mason Kinsey, step aside.
I'd be interested. Could he get 8 catches? You mentioned like 8 for 80 and a touch, something like that.
Yeah, man.
We could see it.
I can see it happening immediately.
Yeah. 8 for 80 and a touchdown for the strep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody will react to that tomorrow.
Oh, definitely not. That won't be part of it. Catch the strep. How's that going to go? I guess he could still make the practice squad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep him around just in case.
Maybe he's the 6th wide receiver they keep. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More of your thoughts on Titans and Niners coming up tonight in the preseason opener. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Chiba Hut now open in Clarksville. 102.5 The Game's Chase and Big Joe will be out at the new Chiba Hut location in Clarksville, located at 419 Riverside Drive. Tomorrow from noon to 3, come experience legendary toasted subs, crave-worthy munchies, beer, wine, and sweet treats. And whether you're grabbing your next lunch or dinner meeting or you're meeting up with friends, they've got your next meal covered. Stop by Chiba Hut today and see what it's all about. Final thoughts here on the show. On our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Interested to see how Will Levis plays tonight. We mentioned in the Rob rant, we could stop with the 5th-round pick stuff. But a lot of people on the text line very excited to watch Will Levis play football tonight. I don't know if they're excited to watch him, like to see how good he's going to be, or if he produces like some sort of viral meme moment.
Oh, it
could be a mixture of both.
It could be entertaining to say one way or the other, good or bad. Could be quite the spectacle.
I mean, here's an underrated, like in all seriousness, somebody texted in and said, since it's just the preseason, I'm excited to see how the uniforms look on TV. We do get a nice look at the new unis tonight.
I haven't been out of practice at all, so I haven't really seen them on. I think I saw white shirts with baby blue pants, I believe, from Jim Wyatt.
Is that the Bridges report?
Yeah, I believe that's what I saw. So, yeah, I'm interested to see.
Really going to be interesting to see what that looks like out there. But look, it looked great with the rollout. It looked great on the practice jerseys. They look good. I think the real jerseys will look nice tonight. So an underrated reason to be tuned in tonight on that front. We talked about Amani Hooker earlier in the show, and Kuharsky offered thoughts on that. It says would not necessarily call him a problem so far in camp, but at this point does recognize that it's probably a fair question to wonder exactly what you're going to get out of Amani Hooker this year. We talked about it last year. He wasn't very good last year. Everything around him, with the exception of Jeffrey Simmons last year, wasn't good on the defensive side of the ball. So how does that impact the way that he plays? Apparently joint practice did not go overly well for Amani Hooker the other day against San Francisco. So look, I don't know how much he'll be out there tonight, how much he'll be tested tonight. Hopefully the Titans don't continue the trend from Tuesday and get beat over the top.
No big
defensively. Just keep the plays in front of you as much as possible tonight on that front. But you got what I would assume Mac Jones will be starting for San Francisco, so we'll see what that looks like. I mean, if you're Shanahan,
get excited.
Like this is kind of a perfect example of rosters being in completely different spots. Like, first off, there's a ton of injuries that the Niners are dealing with, and you're also you're more of a veteran team. Like, I just don't. Like, the preseason game, I don't think holds the same level of weight for San Francisco. That
New
it
staff
does
here, right? New scheme, all the stuff with the Titans. Total changeover,
more young players.
Yeah, San Francisco's got a lot of carryover. I guess they got a new DC, but otherwise, they don't have a whole lot to figure out. They just got to stay healthy and get in the playing shape.
Yeah, absolutely. So that part of it. Interested to see if the Titans can figure that out tonight. But, hey, we got football. We've made it.
6 games tonight. 6 games on the slate.
6 games tonight. We'll see what the Titans are able to do out there in Santa Clara against the Niners. We'll be back in the morning to break it all down. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.